You also mentioned a very profound experience with a rather rare plant medicine, I would say, which is Iboga, at our reunion a few weeks ago. And yeah, I'm just super curious to hear more about that.
Iboga, so I'm not an expert on Iboga. Iboga is a medicine I know kind of the least about. I can recommend another guest if you want to kind of dive more in depth. I can share a bit of my personal experience. But again, with the caveat, like we've been discussing, for me, when I'm talking about these things, this is not because I'm chasing the notches on my belt that I've done all the things. I actually thought I would never be sitting with Iboga. I was like, I have no need or desire to sit with that medicine. Like I've got mushrooms. Mushrooms work for me when I need to do deep work. I've got these, and Iboga, as I since have learned, it called me properly, and I really avoided it for well over a year. And the messages just started coming thicker and thicker and thicker of like, this is time.
In what form?
So how did it start? Well, my one friend started working with Iboga, and she kept, like, for some reason with me particularly, she's like, dude, I feel like this is your thing. And I was like, I don't think it is. I think I'm good. And she said, but she said one thing in particular. She's like, I can't believe you haven't sat with this medicine, because your songs are exactly about to play what happens with this medicine. And when she said that, I was a little like, some part of me was like, oh, fuck, now I'm getting interested. And so that was a part of it. And then I had started to kind of have an awareness that maybe it was calling me, like just feeling like there's a yes where before there was a no, and I can just tell the way it's coming up. I've got more skilled in noticing those kind of things, the synchronicities over time. And then I bumped into the guy who actually facilitates it.
Randomly.
Randomly. I was taking my dog to the vet, and he was at the laundromat next door, and he walked out as I was walking in, like, and I wasn't even going to the same place. As I saw him, I was like, oh, fuck, it's got me.
But to interrupt real quick, I had a similarly, quote unquote, random, crazy experience last night when I went for a walk at the beach, and I bumped into a woman. She was like in her 70s or something like that. And she seemed like quite a conservative South African. We just started chatting because she has an apartment to rent available, right? And then somehow, I don't know, I definitely didn't aim to talk about psychedelics, plant medicine whatsoever with her, because, I kind of got her quite conservative vibe. But then it was her. It was her starting. She was like, well, I don't know what we talked about. We talked about my podcast, right? And I shared something about the first episode with my psychedelic therapist. Like, I went that far, but not further. And then she was like, yeah, you know what, son? I recently read an article in the New York Times about a journalist doing some kind of drug starting with a B. And I was like, you're not talking about Iboga. And she was like, yeah, Iboga. I was like, you're joking. I'm about to go on a podcast with a guy who's done Iboga a few weeks ago. And she suddenly was super alive and so interested in that conversation. And I actually listened to the podcast, the New York Times podcast, on the way here with that journalist, which I would say you can listen to. I think this is going to be more enriching and more exciting. But it's interesting to hear that it's coming more and more into, I don't want to say, well, maybe it's mainstream, because I mean, I've been working in the psychedelic industry for, 5 years now. And still for me, Iboga has been, as I said, one of the rarest or rarely mentioned plant medicines. Now it's interesting that it's becoming kind of more known. Well, yeah. So, but how is that an encounterment?
It's interesting because I think it hasn't been made illegal in the same way that others have. Yeah. There are, I think this, again, I haven't looked into this too much, but I think there are synthetic versions of which they actually call ibogaine.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the main ingredient?
Compound, yeah. So
you can,
for example, in
that.
South Africa, there are ibogaine clinics.
Yeah.
And I imagine that part of the reason it's becoming so popular or so known now is it's just so effective for incurable addicts. Yeah. So alcoholics or heroin addicts or opiate addiction. Yeah. Like, people can go from intense use. You do have to not be using at the time that you sit with the medicine, but like, they come out of that and there's no craving and there's no, it basically clears your body of the craving for the opiates, which is amazing. Like, that's incredible. But that wasn't my reason. Like I said, I was like, I don't need that level of, like, that sounds so intense. And then the first time I ever heard of it was in 2009 or 2010, where I was living with a woman I was taking care of. I was working for her actually and living on her land. And I was working for her, and she mentioned it. And at the time, I remember her saying, it's like, you know how you defragment your hard drive? So you remember that was a thing on a PC. You used to go.
Bro, I'm born in 98.
Okay. So do you know what I'm talking about?
Kind of.
Yeah. So basically, so back in the day when I was a young boy, there was this thing that sometimes with the computer would start to slow down, and it basically was that like the information wasn't organized well on the hard drive, and so you would defrag your hard drive, which is you click a button and it would take hours sometimes, and it would basically reorganize the information on the hard drive.
Bro, it sounds so old to me.
Yeah. It really, like I haven't had to do that I don't even remember the last time. But when she said that, I was like, she's like, it's basically like doing that to your mind. Like where it just defragments your entire reality and then puts it back together. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I never want to do that. Anyway, so long story short, I bumped into this guy's name, Sean. He has a great podcast episode that he actually recommended I listen to. So I bumped into him. I said, look, I'm getting this sense I'm being called. And he's like, oh, beautiful. So you're probably in that place where your heart is saying yes and your head is saying no. I was like, exactly. and he's like, cool, listen to this podcast episode and then you'll know what your next steps are if you're feeling
to be fair, that's that's a standard.
It is a standard
selling phrase, actually.
That's
just to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think he's definitely not a salesman in the sense of that kind of training.
Yeah, I just didn't want to slip that through.
Yeah. No, definitely. But the way he said it in the moment that he said it was what I needed to hear for me. And I think that's the distinction. It wasn't like he was making a sales pitch.
Yeah.
He was speaking to me in that moment of exactly what I needed to hear, to acknowledge what was going on. That some part of me was like, we really need to do this. So Sean suggested I listen to that podcast episode, and when I did it, it's beautiful because he really lists out the process and the way that he spoke. And it was interesting because I had heard about Sean and his work before, and there's like a much deeper story about the interactions. So my first combo experience that I mentioned before in 2009, Sean was there. He was one of the facilitators. And then we've had this long like in and out connection since then. And he moved back to South Africa at some point. But I know him through another mutual friend, and the mutual friend has sat with Iboga a number of times with Sean, and he would always share with us the mantras that Sean gives you to like support you on the journey. The mantras are, there is, as in there is something, there is an observation of an experience or a sensation, or so you like, instead of I am, it's there is. There is joy, for example, instead of I am feeling joy.
So it's kind of stepping onto a meta level.
Yeah, and just becoming the observer. There is the first one. So what is the second one. And whatever is the third one. And I remember when my friend told me this the first time, I was like, that's ridiculous. What the fuck? Like, why would you? Those are such shitty mantras. So I was coming with all these stories that I've been carrying for a long time. But again, I actually had a men's dinner that a friend invited me to some months before. And I was sharing some of what I was going through, which was some pretty heavy stuff, some pretty heavy addiction with social media and just tech in general, feeling of avoidance, of distraction. And at that table, men were like, the sound like Iboga. Have you thought of Iboga? And they were like, Sean. And it just kept coming up again and again, all these different situations. I was like, okay. So I finally had said to Sean, I'm interested. And we were like, we're going to meet up and have a chat. And then I just avoided the meetup and the chat for ages. So again, another few months. And he went away and it was there all these things. And until finally he came back and he said, okay, there's been a surprise ceremony. It's coming up in 2 weeks' time. And he gave me the names of the 3 or 4 other people who are going. And every one of those people are people who are facilitators, people I respect, people I love, people I want to learn more from and want to be around and be more inspired by as people on the path with me. As soon as he said, I got goosebumps now, because as soon as he said it, I was like, fuck, it got me. I'm in. Shit. Couldn't have done it better. And he talks about that. He's like, it really is a very strong synchronistic medicine. It puts things in place very well to help things to happen the way they need to happen. It's a very great intelligence, the spirit of and they all are, obviously, but like this one really kind of, because it's considered a masculine energy, considered like a father or grandfather medicine. And my experience of it was exactly that. Super structured. And he says that before you go in, I think on the podcast episode I'm recommending, he says like, you go through the stages. You eat the medicine and then you go here and you go there and you go there and you go there. And it's like, for me, when it actually happened, one of the greatest things was like, if I ever had a doubt that there is a greater intelligence that is running the show, that there is a God, for want of a better name, or there is a divine, or there is a universal consciousness, or there is one, whatever, it's like eat a piece of wood and have an entire curriculum unfold before you over the next 18 hours. Bro, it's not like someone made this little cocktail. Oh, we mixed this thing and we invented that chemical and we put, it's like you just eat some wood and your curriculum happens. Like, that's incredible. That is amazing. So in terms of the experience itself, I can't really share too much detail. Like, it's really a very personal journey, but it is an opportunity to see where I'm really holding on to stories and where I'm ready to let go, and how I'm ready to let go. And the mantras help a lot. It's like, if I'm getting hooked into some big story, whatever, some huge thing, so what? This massive, there it is. So in terms of, it's a long journey. It's a full weekend, like arrive on a Friday afternoon at like 2 p.m., leave on a Sunday evening. And it's a big journey. It's a death medicine. It's a medicine of dying and rebirthing. So really, but all I can say is that coming out of it, I was like, I can't believe how scared I was of that. That is such a beautiful medicine. It's so wonderful. It's hard. It's very hard. It's very long. It's very intensive, but it's so clear and clean and just like, I don't really know what else to say. It's a very, if it calls you, you'll know, and then it's your time. It might never call you. I don't know that it's for everyone. I didn't think it was for me. And so, but now that I have initiated with it, for me, it feels like it's something I'm certainly going to be working with and developing a relationship with over the years. I
remember you sharing some more details when we were sitting there with our men's group. And I mean, there was a reason I asked, because these stories were just deeply, deeply touching. And
I mean, I could share one story.
Yeah, I was trying to find a way, a gateway to.
I don't know if this is the story that I told you then. I actually don't remember what I said there. I'm happy for you to prompt if it's something you really want to hear, but I can tell you what comes to mind. So for a bit of context, like my very first 5-gram journey, like what they call the hero's journey or hero's dose with mushrooms, I had that experience that people call the ego death. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it means that the identity of myself, who I think of as Nathan, which is just a construct. It's a construct of ideas and histories and conditioning, that none of this is actually real. It doesn't really exist. It's just an idea that I'm holding on to that lives inside of this current vessel that is energized by the breath that is eventually going to stop. And then this will dissolve again. And so that died while I continued breathing. And I returned to a place of oneness, to the sense that of this universal consciousness that is just all light, all sound, all color and space and beingness, and just all love. Really, really, at a very sincere level, not love and light in the way that so many people are living it now, but Hitler, love. Love you, Hitler. I love you. I love you. A baby being born. I love you so much. I'm with you. To everything that's ever existed. And it's really hard for me to, even talking about it now, I feel uncomfortable saying those things because it feels so simplistic. And I don't want to deny in any way the trauma, the pain, the experiences we have at this level. And I experienced and lived from a level where forgiveness is already there. There's no need to ask. And that's why asking forgiveness can be so helpful, because it's already there. If any of us needs forgiveness, just ask. God is already forgiven. There's no requirement. You don't have to do anything. It's all held within the one. At least that was my experience. I can only speak for myself. So I've had that experience. Now, that was the mushroom journey. And I've had that a few times through these different medicine works, through breath work, these different things of the dissolution of the self back into the one. And then part of what I came to with Iboga was one of the visions where I thought I had gone there. I thought I'd gone back to the one. There was a moment where there were all these, the way that my mind was like turning it into images, because it's obviously often beyond description. But what I saw was like infinite TV screens spread out across space. And there was this giant infinite being made up of light and color and sound, all these things, watching all the TV screens. And each TV screen was a different life. It was like your life, my life, anyone listening. It was like, it was representing. I was like, oh, I'm there, I'm with the one. And then I suddenly thought, no, this is missing a really key piece, because the one isn't watching from the outside in. The one is the whole thing. The one is everything. And I suddenly clicked that this was an entity that thinks that it is God, that is a big entity, that is a big energetic being, that is the one that wants all our attention all the time, that loves when we're just lost in our phones, completely sucked into the digital machine, completely surrendered our precious presence to this entity, and it's watching all of that going, yeah, keep feeding me. And it's not, I don't want to make it out like it's evil. It is like any other entity, any other being wants to stay alive. And it actually thinks it is God. It believes itself to be the one, but it's separate and it's watching from the outside. And the only way that gets the opportunity to return home is when we stop feeding it. So that was one of the things that I saw and experienced in that moment. The other one was, and maybe this is what you were referring to, because without going into detail, part of the practice is really just to allow everything to move through, is to just witness everything passing by. Stories, memories, ideas, beliefs, structures, just watch it all go past and be like, here I am watching. As soon as I react to something, so like say, for example, there's an image of a dog that I'm seeing in my mind's eye while I'm lying there going on this journey, and I suddenly go, oh my God, my dogs, that image will suddenly get really big and get really intense, and something will start, and it'll just be like, yeah, keep paying me attention, keep paying me attention. Let's keep going. And I can go on this whole journey. I could spend the rest of the journey hooked into that story. But the practice of it is to go, whatever, or so what, or there is, and let go, come back to the breath, and then that dissolves and moves on. And so what it showed me is that any memory we have, any story, any trauma, anything at all is just another structure, another form that lives through attention. Yep. And that doesn't mean that it's bad. Each of them wants to be acknowledged. Like I was seeing it all go past. I just wasn't reacting to it. And as soon as I reacted, I got hooked, and it hooked me. And then we were on this big journey together, and I had to then, I release you. I see you, and I'm not going to get hooked in anymore.